Leaked documents have just come out about a crash in 1953 that could expose the actual truth. So the UFO crash they're going to be talking about is the Arizona UFO incident in 1953, just outside of a place called Kingman. Now, in spring of 1953, the Atomic Energy Commission unleashed a series of massive explosions across the Nevada test site, code-named Upshot Knothole. At the same period of time, across the line of the Arizona, witnesses reported seeing a fleet of 8 flying saucer-type craft engaging with what looked like a dogfight. And this is an artist's rendition of the event. So here it is from a person called Harry Drew. According to historians and former museum curator Harry Drew, 3 of those unknown craft ended up on the ground near Kingman in May of 1953. And he went on to state, "I didn't go into this with a preconceived notion that I would find the Kingman UFO," Drew says. "I never expected a second one, and I thought it was all done. And then the information about the third one came to me." Drew spent a decade poring through old records and newspaper accounts, tracking down original witnesses, and eventually stitched together a tale far more complicated than the granddaddy of UFO stories, Roswell. In his public lectures, Drew explains how Kingman's story first surfaced in 1973, years before Roswell became well known, and the newspaper ran a story about the retired Nevada test site technician named Arthur Stansel, who said that in May of 1953, he and other team members were transported from Indian Springs, now Creech Air Force Base, to a remote desert location in Arizona to recover a secret experimental craft that had crashed. Stansel was the real person who believed the downed craft was beyond any known technology. And then he went on to write a book about it, and it's basically spiraled into something absolutely insane today. But there has been a video released by 12 News over the past day, which basically goes on to talk about how, basically asked the question, did a UFO crash in Kingman? And apparently, leaked documents claim that it did. So we're going to take a look at this little news article as well, with the context of the downed aircraft after this dogfight that took place and witnesses saw it. Let's see what goes on.
Only on 12 News, a story not from this world. Recently released conversations involving high-level government officials claim a UFO crashed in Kingman back in 1953, and then the aircraft was seized by the Air Force.
Tonight, 12 News journalist
I mean, that does sound a hell of a lot like Roswell, and how the Roswell incident panned out. But of course, we know that Roswell is very well known. This Kingman one, a little bit less so, not as popular as the Roswell incident.
Chase Golightly went to Kingman to look into this mystery.
We all know about the Phoenix Lights and other sightings here in Arizona, but this case is different. Now, no government entity has confirmed this and likely never will. But what we learned leaves a lot up to the imagination.
At the heart of Kingman, Arizona, Route 66. The famous logo seen everywhere you drive, bringing in countless visitors over the decades.
But in May,
not gonna lie, I literally only know Route 66 from Cars. Sorry.
of 1953, a different kind of visitor came here to Kingman, and they didn't take Route 66 to get here.
They came from the sky, crashing down in the desert in an aircraft not from this world, according to UFO researchers.
I have heard rumors about it, yes.
A familiar story for those living here.
I've had 2 sightings myself of UFO craft.
Because I want to go with them.
Others think it's just that, a story.
I'm not a believer.
But self-proclaimed experts and researchers on the matter say what makes this crash so different is all the research, witness testimony, and even evidence surrounding it.
The Kingman crash is definitely...
Wow, up to 30 feet long. That's insane. That's huge. Like, let's put that into perspective. Like, that's like 5 6-foot men on top of each other. Yeah, that's some good maths right there.
In the top 5.
Author Preston Dennett is one of those researchers.
There's just a very small handful of UFO crash retrieval reports in the United States that have that kind of verification to them.
So we decided to find that information ourselves. Going to the Mojave Museum of History in Kingman, combing through old newspaper clippings, sketches, and even redacted government documents allegedly detailing the crash from those who were there.
Wow.
Including Fritz Werner.
We now know him to be Arthur Stansel.
The documents claim Stansel was an...
Now, Stansel, of course, is who I was referring to in my previous kind of, little interlude to the whole situation.
Air Force engineer who studied the impact nuclear blasts had on homes and buildings. He was one of 40 people transported to the crash scene in a bus with blacked out windows so they wouldn't know where they were. They were told this was part of a secret project. When they arrived, the report claims the UFO, measuring 14 feet high and 30 feet in diameter, was made out of unfamiliar metal, plunged about 20 inches into the ground.
And it was his job to...
I mean, 20 inches, that's quite a plunge into the ground. So, it's definitely safe to assume that there was some form of crash that took place for it to kind of hit that kind of level. Yeah.
Basically determine the speed of this object as it came down based upon the gouge it made in the soil. And he estimated it was about 1,200 miles per hour. The craft itself was largely undamaged.
Next to the UFO, the corpse of the so-called pilot, who was described as being about 4 feet tall and wearing a silver metallic suit. Surrounded by military police, the workers conducted their studies in the dead of night. It doesn't say how long they were there, but when they got back on the bus, an Air Force colonel who was in charge of the operation made them take an oath to keep this a secret.
I mean, that's not sus. I don't know what is, Well, first of all, you've just experienced, you've just been told you're going on a top secret mission. You see an alien, allegedly, at 4 foot tall, in a metal suit. You already know that's not a human, because 4 foot's probably, the size of maybe, a young child, or maybe like an older child, perhaps, around 10 or 11. What are they doing flying a saucer that's just crashed at 1,200 mile an hour, 20 inches deep into the soil, made of a metal that you don't know, that's pretty big, and then you're sworn to take an oath? Yeah, seems like just a regular day at the office.
20 years later, Stansel came forward, signing this
Good
affidavit,
lad.
allegedly confirming what he saw. Then 50 years later,
hang on,
David,
let's go back
of
here.
Intelligence, Christopher
Wait.
made them take an oath.
I want to see the
keep
details.
This a secret. 20 years later,
Here we go. So,
Stansel came forward.
the object was constructed of unfamiliar metal which resembled brushed aluminium. It had impacted 20 inches into the sand without any sign of structural damage. It was oval and about 30 feet in diameter. It was an entranceway hatched and vertically lowered and opened. It was about 3.5 feet high and 1.5 feet wide. I was able to talk briefly with someone on the team who did look inside only briefly. He saw 2 swivel seats, an oval cabin, and a lot of instruments and displays. A tent pitched near the object sheltered the dead remains of the only occupant of the craft. It was about 4 feet tall, dark brown complexion, it had 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and a small round mouth. It was clothed in a silvery metallic suit and wore a skull cap of some type of material. It wore no face covering or helmet. I certify that the above statement is true by affixing my signature to this document on the date of June 7th, 1973. Wow. That's some staggering detail right there.
Signing this affidavit, allegedly confirming what he saw. Then 50 years later, another secret about the crash was released by former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Christopher Mellon, between him and a senior United States government member whose name has been redacted, claiming people would be slack-jawed if word got out about what they know, writing the U.S. government seized the Kingman UFO.
These craft are scooped up, taken to various Air Force bases, scientific labs, and studied intently to figure out exactly what we can figure out about how they work.
Wow.
Despite the reports and witness accounts, we will never truly know if what happened in Kingman that day is true or not.
I don't think our governments are ever going to willingly disclose really at all.
Now, I've got a lot of questions about why doesn't the government, I put it on a couple of polls and stuff, and everyone's actually just come back with, if you give up power, the more power you give, the less you have, kind of situation. So that makes sense. But also, I found a list, and I'll go through it in just a moment, of why we might not have disclosure yet, which is really interesting.
We are getting closer to answers.
It's certainly movement.
So is there an official statement from the U.S. government about this Kingman crash? I reached out to several of our congressional members and even reached out to the U.S. House Oversight and Accountability Committee, who's actually held hearings on UFOs and aliens. But the spokesperson told me they have no comment on this crash.
Shocker. What a shocker. Right, let me pull up this thing that I was talking about. So here, I found it the other day. Here it is. So this is the reason as to why we probably haven't had UFO disclosure, right? So UFOs are a threat to human egos, fossil fuel industry, organized religion, divisiveness, apathy, materialism, military industrial complex, control freaks, limits to impose consciousness, old paradigms, outdated societal, institutional, and political systems. How true is this? Like, it literally, like, just completely breaches so much. Like, and all of these things are the powers that be, you know, all of it. So there you go, the Kingman UFO crash. Details, and yet apparently nothing happened. What do you guys think on this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to jump to get the hell out of that like button if you have not already. Subscribe if you're new. Tick on my little bell so you get notified whenever we upload to the channel. And until next time, I hope that you guys have enjoyed. Can't wait to the next one, and I'll speak to you later. Peace.